I walked into Christmas with my kids. My dad looked me dead in the eye and said, "Everything was peaceful until you showed up." My 7-year-old lowered his head without saying a word. I kissed his hair and told my dad calmly, "Then my money's leaving with me." 5 minutes later, Dad started begging me. I walked into my parents' house on Christmas Eve with a bag full of wrapped presents, a store-bought pecan pie, and my 2 kids dragging their feet behind me like they already knew this wasn't going to go well. The house looked the same as always. Same dusty garland from the early 2000s, same cracked nativity set missing a wise man, same cold air in the hallway because they refused to fix the draft. I hadn't been home for Christmas in 3 years. Not since the fight about my divorce. My parents never liked my ex-husband but somehow blamed me when I left him. And even after I got promoted, bought a house on my own and paid off every dime of debt without anyone's help, I still wasn't enough for them. I guess I showed up this year hoping for some kind of thaw. Inside it was already crowded. My dad's siblings were all there, laughing too loud, wearing red sweaters that all looked like they came from the same clearance bin. My Uncle Greg gave me a nod. My cousin Rachel whispered something to her boyfriend and smirked. And my dad, of course, was holding court in the recliner like some bitter patriarch who thought the world owed him a medal. He saw me and didn't even fake a smile. Everything was peaceful until you showed up. Just like that. No hello. No Merry Christmas. No hug for the grandkids. Just that sentence tossed like a grenade into the middle of the living room. Logan, my youngest, froze. He was holding a handmade card he'd drawn for my dad. It had snowmen and stars on it. He lowered it slowly, looking down like maybe he did something wrong. I leaned in and kissed his hair. Then I said loud enough for every single person to hear, "Then my money's leaving with me." It's like I flipped a switch. My mom gasped softly behind me. Rachel stopped chewing her peppermint bark. My dad looked like someone had just told him he lost the house in a poker game. "What money?" I didn't answer. I just pulled the wrapped envelope from my coat pocket and held it up. $10,000. Gish. I was going to hand it to them after dinner. It was supposed to be a surprise. Help with the roof, the broken furnace, the kitchen they'd been complaining about since I was a teenager. I'd spent 6 months putting that aside bit by bit, thinking maybe it would finally make them see me differently. I thought they'd be proud. Instead, I tore the envelope in half and dropped it on the floor. "You were going to give us that?" My mom said, finally finding her voice. I was. "Not anymore." I turned to leave. Ava was already halfway to the door, trying not to cry. Logan was still standing there holding that stupid snowman card. I took his hand and we started walking out. We just reached the porch when I heard the front door swing open behind me. Emily, wait. It was my dad. He actually came out in front of the whole family. That never happens. He looked pale, like the wind slapped him in the face harder than I ever could. I shouldn't have said that. I don't know why I said it. Please, come back in. Don't leave like this. I stood there for a second, then said, "You want us to come back in?" "Apologize." To Logan. "Right now." He hesitated, then looked down at Logan. "I'm sorry, buddy." And to me. He met my eyes. "I'm sorry, Emily." I nodded. Then I slapped him. Not out of rage. Not even to humiliate him. Just to mark the moment. Because sometimes a line has to be drawn with something more than words. We left in silence. As I buckled Logan into his seat, I heard the door close behind us. No one came out again. No one tried to stop us. But for once, I wasn't the one who looked small walking away. The next morning, I woke up to 9 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and 2 texts from my mom that were just her crying emojis and a photo of the Christmas tree. Logan and Ava were still asleep in my bed, both curled up under the weighted blanket like they were trying to hide from the world. I made coffee and ignored everything. For a while at least. By noon, my Uncle Mark showed up at my front door. I hadn't seen him since my grandmother's funeral, but he was always the only one on that side of the family who talked to me like I wasn't a screw-up. He stood there in a heavy coat holding a paper bag with leftover cookies and a look like he'd just left a war zone. "They're freaking out," he said. "I bet. Your dad hasn't shut up since you left. He tried to act like it was no big deal, but everyone saw his face after you slapped him. He went back inside and just sat down staring at the wall." "Good." He paused, then pulled something else out of the bag, the card Logan had made. It had gotten stepped on. A little bent, but still whole. "Thought you'd want this back. It was the only thing your dad picked up off the floor after you left." I didn't know what to say. For a second I thought maybe this was going to be the start of some weird redemption arc where everyone suddenly gets therapy and hugs each other in the end. But then Mark shook his head. "Don't forgive him yet. He needed that slap more than anyone I've ever seen. And everyone agrees with you. I've had cousins texting me all morning like it was the best Christmas they've ever witnessed. By that evening, even my mom sent a real message. He wanted to talk. Said things had gotten out of hand. No apology, just excuses. She said they were under a lot of stress. Money problems. The house. The usual. I didn't respond. The truth is I felt good. Not proud, not smug, just steady. Like I finally broke something that needed to be broken a long time ago. But I should have known it wasn't over. The next morning I came out to start my car, and the windshield was shattered. Not cracked. Shattered. Glass everywhere. There were boot prints in the snow, and the mailbox had been knocked sideways like someone kicked it on the way out. I knew exactly who did it. There was a small camera mounted under the porch light. I'd installed it earlier in the fall after some kids messed with our pumpkins. It caught everything. My dad walking up in the early hours, glancing around, swinging something at my car, then jogging off down the street like a teenager in trouble. I called the police. 10 minutes later, Officer Garcia pulled up. He'd been trying to flirt with me for months during every school event or town meeting, always finding a reason to come say hi. This time he was all business, until he saw the footage. You want to press charges? I nodded. Absolutely. He looked at me for a moment, then said, I'll make sure this goes through. He doesn't get to act like that and walk away from it. By that night my dad was in custody. 7 days in jail. Plus restitution for the damage. Garcia said the DA was fine pushing it through because it was so blatant, so deliberate. And because it wasn't the first time my dad had had outbursts like this. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd reported him for something before. The family started calling again, but this time it was different. My Aunt Marlene texted me saying what I did was brave. My cousin Leah sent me a voice memo that just said, You finally did what the rest of us were too scared to. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the family screw-up. I was the one who did something. The morning my dad got out of jail, I woke up early without meaning to. It was still dark and the house was silent. I made coffee and stood at the kitchen window, watching the steam curl up from the mug like it might tell me what was coming next. Logan and Ava were still asleep. Wrapped up in the blankets they insisted on bringing into my room every night since Christmas. My phone buzzed. A message from Garcia. He's out. Let me know if he comes near your house. We've got it documented. I stared at it for a while. No one teaches you what to do when your own father smashes your car window and ends up behind bars for it. But it turns out once you stop excusing someone's behavior, you also stop fearing them. That day no one from my family called. Not my mom. Not even the ones who had been blowing up my phone a few days before. Just silence, like they were waiting to see what he would do next. The following morning I got a knock on my door. I peeked through the blinds and saw Uncle Pete standing on my porch holding a brown paper bag. I opened the door. You busy? I shook my head and let him in. He set the bag on the kitchen table like he lived there. He didn't sit down right away. Just looked around. At the dishes in the sink, the school art projects on the fridge, Logan's baseball glove on the floor. You've built something good here. He said it like it surprised him. I didn't say anything. I watched the footage, Emily. Your dad smashing your windshield like that. It was disgusting. Still nothing from me. Then he looked me dead in the eye and said something no one else in the family ever had the guts to say. We've all known for years he's been out of line. The way he talks to people. The way he talks about you. We just let it slide. I let it slide. And I shouldn't have. He sat down finally. He did the right thing pressing charges. Honestly, it's the only thing that ever got through to him. It hit me then how many years I spent thinking I was the problem. That maybe if I was just a little more agreeable, a little more grateful, they'd finally treat me like I mattered. But now the narrative had shifted. I was no longer the disappointment. I was the one who had done what no one else would. Later that night Garcia stopped by. No reason, he said. Just checking in. He brought paperwork for the restitution process and a folder of insurance claim forms, but we both knew that wasn't why he came. He glanced at my porch light. Still broken, huh? I nodded. Want me to fix it? He spent 20 minutes outside rewiring it. When he came back in I handed him a soda. He didn't stay long, but before he left he said something that stuck with me. Most people go their whole lives letting family get away with things they'd never accept from a stranger. He changed that. 2 days later a letter arrived. Folded by hand, placed in an envelope with no stamp. Someone dropped it off. Family dinner. Saturday at 6. Your father wants to speak. No apology. No explanation. Just a summons. I didn't trust it. But part of me needed to know what he'd say. So I called Aunt Jackie. You busy Saturday? What's going on? I explained. Say no more. I'm in. When we showed up that evening the house looked dimmer somehow. The Christmas decorations were still up but the lights were off. My mom answered the door like she'd been crying all day. My dad stood behind her wearing the same gray sweater he wore when I was in high school, like he was trying to borrow something from the past. We walked in. Jackie didn't say a word, but the way she stood behind me told everyone this wasn't going to be a one-on-one. My dad cleared his throat. I just want to say something. No one stopped him. The room was dead quiet. I was wrong. Just that. No build-up. No excuses. He looked at Logan, who clung to my coat. I scared you. I hurt your mom. I embarrassed this family. And I'm sorry. He looked at me next. I've been angry at the world for a long time. And I made you the target of that anger. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I needed you to hear me say it. Then he said something I never thought I'd hear from him. I'm ashamed of myself. My mom spoke next, her voice small. I've let him treat you this way for too long. I convinced myself it was just who he is. That it was easier not to stir things up. I should have stood up for you. I didn't. I'm sorry too. Ava watched them both carefully. Logan stepped closer to me. I don't know what I expected. But I didn't expect to feel so calm. I nodded. I forgive you. And for the first time in my life I meant it. But as I looked around that room, something in me knew it wouldn't last. The family dinner haunted me for a few days. Not because of what was said, but because of how much I wanted to believe it. My dad's apology, my mom's confession. It all sounded real enough. But it stayed with me like a scent that doesn't belong in a room. Too sweet, too sudden, too out of place. Still, I tried to accept it. I didn't tell the kids we were magically fixing everything, but I let them write thank you notes for the small gifts my mom sent a few days later. A new puzzle for Logan. A scarf Ava said looked exactly like something I would wear. It almost felt normal. Until it didn't. It was the second week of January. I had just gotten off work and stopped by the grocery store with Logan. We were in the produce section when I heard someone say my name. I turned and saw Marlene. A woman who used to babysit me when I was little, practically a third cousin once removed or something like that. She was standing by the oranges with another woman I didn't know. She smiled at me like we were old friends. Emily. I heard about everything. What a mess. I gave her a tight nod and tried to keep moving. But then she said it. I just hope your father recovers from the whole ordeal. 7 days. For a windshield? He must be devastated. I stopped. I'm sorry? Well, I just meant your mom's been saying he's really struggling. That the whole thing got blown out of proportion. That maybe you misunderstood. I looked her right in the eye. Did she also say he came to my house before sunrise and smashed my car like a coward? Marlene blinked. No, of course not, Thanks for the concern, I said, grabbing Logan's hand. We walked out without buying a thing. The next morning Aunt Jackie called. I've been hearing things, she said. Nasty stuff. Your mom's been on the phone with half the family telling them you've cut them off over nothing. She's playing the "we were just trying to make things right" card. Are you serious? Dead serious. And your dad's been talking to guys at the bar like he's the victim. Saying you turned the kids against him. That you're unstable. That you've always had issues. I stared at the wall. After everything? Jackie sighed. You need to know the truth even if it hurts. They can't stand that you didn't come crawling back. They're rewriting it so they look like the wounded parents of a selfish daughter. I felt sick. Not shocked, just nauseated. They were never going to change. Not really. The apology wasn't a turning point. It was a performance. A cleanup job. And I had fallen for it, even if only for a minute. But this time I didn't cry. I didn't confront. I didn't explain. I just cut them off. Fully. I blocked their numbers. I deleted every email they ever sent. I packed up the kids' framed pictures from their house and put them in a box in the garage. When Logan asked about them, I said simply, we won't be visiting for a while. And he nodded. That was all he needed to know. But then something unexpected happened. A week later, I ran into Officer Garcia at a school fundraiser. He was volunteering at the bake sale table, trying to look like a normal guy in a hoodie instead of someone who once handcuffed my father in his own living room. He asked how things were going. I told him the truth. It's weirdly peaceful, I said. He smiled. Good. You deserve that. Then, without skipping a beat, he added, if you ever need anything, or, someone to talk to who won't tell people you're unstable, I'm around. I didn't answer right away. But something in his voice felt like a door creaking open. Later that night, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine while the kids played inside. It was cold, but I didn't go in. For the first time in my adult life, I realized I didn't owe anyone forgiveness just because they shared my blood. And I didn't owe them access to me, my life, or my children. Let them sit in the silence. Let them spin their stories. I wouldn't be there to correct them. I wasn't planning to ever set foot in that house again. But then Saturday rolled around and my phone lit up with a message from Rachel. Heads up. They're telling everyone you were invited to a family dinner tonight and refused to come. Words going around that you're still acting unstable. Unstable. That was the word that kept popping up now, wasn't it? Not upset. Not hurt. Not even angry. Just unstable, like I was some hysterical woman having a nervous breakdown over a few harsh words and a broken windshield. I called Aunt Jackie. They're throwing a dinner tonight? Yup. Last minute thing. I was invited. Whole extended group. They made it sound like you bailed. Did they actually invite me? Nope. And they're pretending this is some ongoing act of forgiveness and you just keep rejecting them. I stood in my living room looking out the window while Ava and Logan colored at the kitchen table. I thought about all the years I spent waiting for them to see me clearly. For one moment where they might treat me like someone worth defending. That moment wasn't coming. Not really. But I could still show up and take back the narrative they were trying to twist into something I didn't recognize. So I got dressed. I called Jackie and told her to meet me there. I dropped the kids off at her place early with a bag of popcorn, some Legos and a movie lined up. And at 5:55 I pulled into the driveway. It was packed. I counted 6 cars, maybe more. The house was lit up like nothing had ever gone wrong. I walked straight in. The conversation stopped the second the door clicked shut behind me. I didn't say anything right away. I scanned the room. My dad was sitting at the table in one of his old button-up shirts like he thought dressing halfway decent would change what happened. My mom was near the kitchen holding a tray of deviled eggs. Uncle Pete, Rachel, 2 of my aunts, and at least 3 cousins were already halfway through their plates. No one looked at me until I spoke. So this is the dinner I apparently refused to attend? All heads turned. My dad stood up slowly. My mom started saying something but I held up my hand. No one invited me. That's the truth. Let's start there. My dad cleared his throat. We assumed you wouldn't come given everything. You assumed. Then you told people I refused. I looked at Rachel. She didn't meet my eyes. I came here tonight for one reason. To say this face to face. You're not going to rewrite the story. You're not going to keep telling people I overreacted or that I'm unstable or that I turned my kids against their grandparents. You smashed my car in the dark like a coward. You stood in front of your own grandson and humiliated him on Christmas. I forgave you. You had a chance. My dad opened his mouth but I didn't let him speak. And you blew it. Because the second we left you didn't reflect. You gossiped. You made yourself the victim. You told people I was irrational. You acted like I owed you something. The table was dead silent. Then Jackie stepped through the door behind me. She stood there, arms folded. So, are you going to deny it? My mom tried. We didn't mean. You meant every word I said. You meant it when you told your friends I made a scene. You meant it when you lied about this dinner. I looked around the room. If any of you still believe them after everything, after the footage, after the apology, after the 7 days in jail, then that's fine. But you don't get access to me or my kids anymore. I don't owe anyone here a second of my life. And just before I turned to go I added, apologize. To everyone. Right now. Or I'm gone forever. And next time you try to twist the truth, I'll release the video publicly. Not to shame you, but to protect myself. My dad stood frozen. Then slowly, almost too quiet to hear, he said, I lied. I exaggerated everything. I made it sound like Emily was the problem. She wasn't. He looked down. I just couldn't admit what I did. My mom whispered something barely audible. We're sorry. It didn't feel satisfying. Not like before. His felt tired, stale. Like people saying sorry because they had no other option left. I didn't wait for dessert. I didn't wait for a hug. I walked out and Jackie followed without a word. As we got in the car she looked over at me. You handled that better than I ever could have. I shook my head. I didn't do it for them. I did it for me. That night I got a text from Officer Garcia. Hope today wasn't too awful. Still up for that coffee sometime? I smiled and texted back. Yeah, think I am. And just before I went to sleep, Rachel sent me a screenshot of a message from my dad in the family group chat. I was wrong. And Emily was right to walk away. I turned off my phone. I didn't need to respond. Let them sit with that now. 2 weeks passed. No messages from my dad. No calls from my mom. The group chat where they used to post chain prayers and birthday wishes went dead silent. I knew better than to believe that meant things were fixed. Silence was their favorite mask. It always looked like peace, but it was just another strategy. Then on a rainy Tuesday it slipped. I was picking up Ava from school when one of the other moms, Janelle the PTA queen, caught me in the parking lot. She smiled that polite, slightly too sweet smile and said in the most casual voice, Your mom came into the library yesterday. Said she was heartbroken that you're still mad. That you left them with no help for the renovation after stringing them along. I blinked. What? Janelle's smile faded. She must have realized something was wrong. She tried to backpedal. Oh, I'm sure she didn't mean it like that, but I wasn't listening. I got home and checked Facebook. I don't use it much anymore, but my mom does. And sure enough, there it was, buried in a comments section under one of her friends' praying for your family posts. She had written, "Some people forget what it means to be a daughter. But God sees everything." I laughed out loud. One of those short, bitter laughs that doesn't even feel good. I screenshotted it. I didn't send it to anyone. I didn't respond. But I knew exactly what I had to do. I sat down at the dining table while the kids were doing homework and wrote a letter. Not a rant, not a scream, just a clean break. Dear Mom and Dad, there won't be a next time. There won't be another family dinner. Another apology followed by betrayal. Another passive-aggressive post or whisper campaign behind my back. You've shown me exactly who you are. And this time I believe it. You lost access to me and my children the moment you decided your pride mattered more than our trust. Don't reach out again. I printed it, signed it, and dropped it in their mailbox that evening. No return address. No extra note. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. The next few days were quiet. Strangely so. Until Sunday morning. Jackie showed up at my door unannounced, holding a large manila envelope. Inside were several pages printed from a private group text I wasn't in. Screenshots. From my mom and dad's new narrative. I was selfish, delusional, cruel. They said I was using the kids to punish them. That I was never planning to help with the renovations. That I was unstable and maybe not well. And that's when I felt it. The final snap. The moment where something breaks so quietly, it almost sounds like nothing. I called Garcia. Told him everything. Asked what my options were in terms of harassment, slander, anything. He said, "Let me look into it." 2 hours later he called back. There's a line between petty gossip and targeted harassment. And they just crossed it. He offered to file an official warning. I said no. Let them talk. Let them choke on their own stories. I wasn't going to give them another ounce of energy. But I did one last thing. I logged back onto Facebook. Posted a photo of me and the kids on our last trip. Just us smiling in the sun. And I added a caption. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop explaining yourself and just live well. Then I blocked every single relative who'd ever sided with them. I deleted the app. I closed the chapter. No rage. No revenge. Just silence. A week later I took Garcia up on that coffee. It turned into dinner. Then dinner turned into something more. Nothing serious yet but peaceful. Honest. And the kids liked him. Which said more than anything else. I still hear things. Whispers from people in town. A few strange looks. But now when someone tries to bring them up I just smile and say, "We don't talk anymore." And that's enough. Because I finally understood that cutting someone off doesn't always look like slamming a door. Sometimes it's just choosing not to open it again. Not this year. Not ever.